And we're live. What's going on, guys? CJ here with the WOD Prep Podcast. I am blessed and super excited to have Seth Page on the show from Jump Ship. Seth, you want to tell everyone who you are? Because I don't know. You're new to me too.
I am Seth Page from Jump Ship, as you said. So you nailed it. Yeah, super quick background. Just been involved with CrossFit since 2008 in the sense that super obsessed with the sport side of it early on. Had opportunity to work with some high level athletes very early in the development of the sport. Program for them, coach them. Probably had a couple dozen individual games athletes that I've coached a program for, plus all the teams, masters, teams, all that stuff. So I've been pretty invested in the CrossFit Games for a long time as part of my career, and yeah, so I'm kind of in a new phase now where I'm not really working with games athletes at the level that I used to. I've more shifted my focus to the everyday competitor, you'd call it, those that have a whole life with that they have to balance and then also want to be competitive, whether it's their local competition, the open quarterfinals or whatever. So, but yeah, that's a little bit about my background. So 16
Cool.
years strong.
That's a long time. That's a long time in the sport. I'm at
It
11
is.
years. So, cool, man. Well, hey, thanks for taking some time. So today's show, guys, what we're talking about is we are talking about how to program the perfect CrossFit Games. And so what we're going to do is we're going to lay out a framework. We each created a skeleton over 5 days. Over a weekend for CrossFit, we decided on X amount of events, cuts or no cuts, if there's a rest day or not. And then basically with those kind of predetermined frameworks, um, we wrote out events. Okay, so that is what we're going to talk about today. We might write out the workouts fully. We'll see how kind of far we get going over, but we'll do the whole skeleton first, and then we'll kind of come back if it's kind of going quick, which it might or might not. I'm It's undetermined. Then we will either write the workouts in fully or man, am I quiet again? Shit.
Your mic sort of sounds like it's like computer audio or headphones audio, maybe instead of
Oh,
might just have to
let's
change it
see.
on the StreamYard.
Audio. It is. Look at that.
Oh
Perfect.
wow.
Better.
Oh, you're
There we go.
back. You're back.
I'm back. I'm back,
That's way
baby.
better.
Um, Sweet. Perfect. Is that better? Man, I think that was what was yesterday. I don't know how I fucking missed that. I was quiet on the whole show. Um, okay, so we're gonna lay out a framework and then we are either going to program it or we will, yeah, we fucked that up yesterday, Travis. Or we'll go to a second show. And we'll do it next week, maybe before the games or something. And then everything is dying. I don't know. That's all right. Lights are on. It's fine. We'll figure this out. Having technical difficulties. All right. Further ado, let's dig into it. Guys, don't hate on my rudimentary little framework here. But this is what we got, and I think it's going to work pretty well. Okay.
And
So,
I would say before you dive into this,
mhm,
this is like I would say we both probably stayed in line with what we've seen for the games. Like we didn't try to reinvent the CrossFit Games
right.
here. We're
Yeah, yeah,
trying
yeah.
to basically what we would like to see as far as like a battery of tests that would be well balanced enough, good for viewing. Like we try to think of every component, or at least I did. I'm sure you did too. But yeah, this is like from our perspective. It's not like a reinvention of the games.
Right. Yeah. So we
Yeah.
use that as a framework, right? And so that's, you know, they have 18 years of experience. So Dave's done a pretty good job. I don't think we should fully reinvent the wheel, just some of the tests that we might like to see. A couple things that we did decide on is we decided to have a Thursday rest day. I like that a little bit better. And I think Seth does too, to maybe lean into uh, a bit heavier day one instead of maybe a lighter day one. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So I liked starting off the test, especially the first day, like with a handful of them and long and brutal. Like I want the first day to be like a punch in the gut for these athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's their first time, or maybe it's a really easy way to shake out who's used to this sort of both intensity and volume and can recover for the remaining tests. So I like the challenging Wednesday with a Thursday rest day.
Yeah, I agree. And then we also decided to have some cuts. We're going to cut after Friday, and then after Saturday, And so we'll cut to 30 after Friday, not Saturday morning. I think like the Friday night is just, it's so intense always, right? And the Coliseum or tennis stadium is just always so hyped already. To add cuts to it, I think would just create so much intensity and pressure that I like it a little bit better than Saturday morning as they have it currently.
Yeah. And you kind of had said something in a conversation we had prior to this was like cutting to 30 is not a big deal. It's
Right.
like just barely trimming the fat, not to be disrespectful to those athletes that finished down there, but like 3 or 4 already pulled out due to injury or didn't show up or didn't get their
Right.
visa or whatever. And so like you're only cutting 5 to 7 athletes at that point who have just had an abysmal start to the games. And so
Right.
you're not losing anything there.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and then we decided to cut to 20 on Saturday. I think that there allows, and so one thing that we did agree upon is 4 events on Sunday. It was my favorite part of semifinals this year was the 1, 2, 3 format, finishing with the most points on the last day. And I think that really leans into CrossFit's maybe like root competitive design is who's the best under fatigue and who manages fatigue the best. And so I love having 4 scored events on Sunday, especially after cutting to 20. It still gives so much chance, and it takes away the fucking phrase moving day. Moving day is on Sunday, right? 4 events, right? A third
Right.
of the events are going to be the last day.
Yeah.
And so Augustus, it's a 13. All right, get the fuck over it. There, it's a 13. So yeah, so I think that's why I liked 4 events on Sunday, and then cutting to 20, I think just gives us more room to play with maybe some more workouts, right? Like to have 30 and go through 4 events is just going to take so long. And I don't know. I think it gives us more chance to have really good 4 events on Sunday.
Yeah. Logistical wise, like having
Right.
20 athletes to get them through is better. I don't even mind a cut to 10 as far as like in maybe like halfway through Sunday, like, okay, the final, only 10 are going
Sure.
in. You
Or even like
redistribute
just the
points.
final, like
Yeah.
just event 13, right?
Or
Or
you
our
make
last
the
event.
final a 2-parter maybe, right?
Sure.
So you do 2 events on Sunday and then only the top 10 that are really in contention are going after it, because that makes that point distribution, 10 points per spot as opposed to whatever 2-parter in the final. You might see some really crazy shakeup at the end.
Right.
So I like the drama of it.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, without further ado, let's get into it. Event 1 or day 1, Wednesday. I think we were both kind of on the same component here. So just for everyone that knows, Seth is in red, I'm in blue. And it's funny, Seth starts out with a lot more information on each one of his things, then gets a little bit less, and then I kind of like got a little bit more. So I think it balances out as far as our ideas. Talk to me about why you thought, like what your goal is here.
Yeah. So Wednesday, a lot of it was, again, I want to put my longer pieces on Wednesday. I want to really challenge them early on, which I think is kind of what they've done in years past. But also, if you're going to be off campus, so to speak, on some of the endurance things, it's better to do it before the big crowd shows up Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I like both logistically and, performance wise to do like the long endurance stuff right out of the gate. And I like, you'll see that I like single modality tests at the games. A lot of people want to see more CrossFit. I want to see less CrossFit at the games and more things pulled apart and tested.
Sure.
So yeah, an endurance event, maybe it's 2 movements, maybe it's 1, but just something super simple, very relatable. And yeah, that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah. I'm definitely a pro like monostructural type testing. Um, uh, and so I love the long run to start. I think the trail run is just such a great way to start. I look at like the best games, the ones that like I feel like the game should just have this grueling component to start, right? To create this who is managing fatigue the best, right? Like if you once you got to Madison, there was this it was really who's faster and maybe not who is more grueling, right? And like has that like deep dog in them. But like in Carson or even in Aromas, like it was just who can just suffer the most. And I feel like that component of the games is what I love to watch the most. And so I want to see a really long run that's going to be really hard to recover from to open the weekend.
What's long?
I have 7 to 10. Can you not see? I have seven to
Oh
ten
yeah, I
miles.
can.
Okay.
I actually, yeah, I thought this is something else. Yeah, 7 to 10 miles.
Yeah, I have like
Got it.
7 to 10 miles here, right? Trail. It doesn't have to be a trail run, but something that's challenging, that's going to put some real distance on the ankles and on the joints to start the weekend.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. And for me, I could have it be anything. It could be a long bike, a long swim, a combination of two things. Could be a long ruck. I'm down for anything, as long as it stays like within the endurance spectrum. I don't want it
Cool.
to turn into like a burden run sort of thing early on. I'd rather just be one more singular modality.
Right. And so let's go into event two, because it'll kind of, I think, help us kind of find a common point for event one between our two. All right. So event two, you have some like strongman components, which I have later in the week. But I have a mixed swim component. And so the workouts that I've liked the best with the swim are like the kettlebell thrusters on the beach. I thought
Yep.
that was what was that? Just I don't even remember the name of that workout. Beach swim,
It could have been, I think it was
beach,
the beach.
the beach, right? And then the that slam ball GHD one they did in 2020. Obviously that's probably not, but just something mixed with swimming. It's something we don't see very often, but I think it takes away at least a little bit of just the pure swim, or just like the pure aerobic, and gives it just a little bit of, okay, who can manage getting back in the water with a really high heart rate? More so than just who's the better swimmer. The better swimmer is always going to win for sure. But for the
Well, let me
most
ask
part,
you
I
this.
like a mix here.
Let me ask you this. So,
Mhm.
do you want the swim to be the test, or do you want the swim to be the distraction to the test?
No, the swim is the test. The swim is still a
Okay.
higher component. Like
Okay.
it's like a moderate high volume. I'm thinking something like a 250 or 300 for multiple rounds, something like that, where
Okay.
they're getting back
Gotcha.
out of the water. And it could be laps, but it's definitely the primary focus of the test.
Got it.
Talk to
Yeah.
me
So I
about
went.
yours.
Yeah, I went with like a strongman slash Highland style games event. So Highland is like I think it's Scottish, is it?
Scottish.
Yeah, they throw hammers, they do all kinds of like outdoorsy, crazy strongman style stuff, or just a strongman event. The one that kind of came in my head that would be a cool both strength and dynamic strength test is something like throwing the kegs or kettlebells up over the post behind them.
Hmm.
You ever seen that? They do
Oh
like
yeah.
the over the head
Hmm.
throw, something like that. Maybe it's light D ball, whatever. Just something where you're the stronger or both stronger and more coordinated athletes who put it together do the best. You have to be fit enough to run and do multiple of
Hmm.
those like quickly. So you kind of have this sprinty strength event that really will separate the big strong people from the less powerful athletes. And I don't think it has to be soup. I don't think it has to beat you up. I think it can be very
Hmm.
exciting, short event, but
Okay.
something that's testing upper level strength and dynamic strength.
Got it. I like it. I have something similar later in the week. So I think let's like keep this is like our first thing that we fully agree on, and then we'll kind of go through, and then maybe we'll start maybe like combining days, or maybe moving some stuff around.
Cool.
All right. So event three, you have like a gymnastics test with higher skill and capacity. And I have like a classic couplet triplet, like some sort of like moderate to heavy implement, whether that's a barbell or a dumbbell or a kettlebell, some form of, with a dense gymnastics component. So, it could even be, I don't know, like front squats into muscle ups, or like, with like a high volume number of double unders, but definitely something of a muscle up capacity. I like muscle ups here, maybe over rope climbs. I think rope climbs fit a little maybe better later in the week, but it's just something here. And then I think what a lot of people see here is like something like Amanda, right? And that's like where my head always goes, is like some
Gotcha.
form of, and that's what we did on our show yesterday. We wrote it out, and I think there was an Amanda variant, but we had an event two. And then we had like a handstand thing on event three, but some pulling pattern gymnastics with, mixed with, and it could be just a machine or like a burpee or like a lunge, like something like that. But, Yeah, that's where my head is at. Medium time domain, 8, like 10, 9 to 13 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I sort of imagine the first day, like I was saying earlier, if you're going to go off campus, you do it all on day one before the crowds get there. So I was sort of thinking with the gymnastics test, if you did something outside or outside the box, like almost like a muscle up biathlon sort of event where you're
Sure.
kind of, I mean, maybe that is on campus in a field or something. I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, something that is focuses on the gymnastics volume and capacity, but adds a little element of if you don't do well, you're going to pay the price sort of thing. And so, like, I think the best example I could give there would be like the muscle up biathlon. But you can mix a couple gymnastic skills together. You can have an outside component like a double under, like you said, that just kind of throws a little wrinkle in it. But like you could see from the first three events, there you have like a endurance, strength or power, and then skill. And I sort of have pulled them out intentionally like that and separated them.
Cool. All right. Do you want to like combine this one? I feel like we're on the same page here. Do you want to try and combine like our thoughts between the two pieces?
Yeah, I think you probably nailed it. You just kind of have a more specific implement. I like them. I like the double under or a simpler component than a barbell
Mhm.
mixed with the gymnastics volume. Maybe it's muscle ups or rope climbs, or maybe it's both. Like it's a chunk of both or something. With
Cool.
every time you, I mean, that we haven't tested touch and go rope climbs at the games before. That could be an interesting thing where you got to come
Sure.
down and go straight back up. Something like that with if you come down early, you got to do 20 GHD sit-ups. I don't know, but some sort of thing like that. Whatever that is.
Cool. I like it. All right. Uh, Sweet. Okay, let's go to event 4. I think this is like where I had kind of like this like grunt work, maybe coming back into the Highlands thing. I sort of like the Highlands thing to fit here a little better. And then I think taking them back off campus again for the morning on Friday for like this like mixed swim piece, I think would fit really cool. I think that would be a good, even like a more broader stroke, right? Like, cause people can only go so hard, right? Like, I feel like while swimming is challenging, like the soreness and fatigue level from it is still minimal, right? And we're
Right.
not going to throw like like 2 70-pound kettlebells for sets of 50 or something like that, right? Like that would just be insane. So,
Takes the
I actually
focus
kind
off
of
the
like
swim
that
too much. Yeah.
there. Right. Yeah, exactly. But talk to me about what you're thinking here for event 4.
Yeah, so kind of like the first time I'm really trying to mix like strength and gymnastics together now. So like they've done a test like this in the past where something like the L sit hold or the weighted pull up, or maybe they're testing a jump of some kind or a combination of like a skills series. I didn't really like the skills series, the skills event that Boz did with like the double under crossover. I thought it was too over the top, too circusy. I'd like to see more, again, relatable skills like an L sit hold,
Mm-hmm.
a challenging variation of that. Maybe it's on rings where you got to keep your feet off the plate instead of the parallettes from the years past. So something that's a mix of stability, strength, and then some basic skill, I think. So it's kind of a skills test. You could even make it like 3 50-point tests or something like that. I'd be
Okay. Yeah,
down
I
to
like
mix it
that.
up like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So like a handstand hold, an L sit, like strict muscle, like a low
Yes.
ring strict muscle ups, right? And it's like
Yep.
bam, bam, bam with like maybe, you could progress it into like a short rest in between, right? Like it could start with like the handstand hold, into like a 3-minute rest, into like the L sit, into a 3-minute rest, and then into like max strict low ring muscle ups or something like that. Um,
That's
that
actually a really cool idea. Yeah. Something
um
just like that.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. And so I look at the mornings. I just always lean into like being back on the soccer field, right? And so this is kind of like where my head is at. I do like this test a lot, and I think it fits where my event 5 is. And so we're just kind of like out of order. I think we're like pretty much on the same page, just in different pieces. I love the pig. I think it creates a really good implement. Something here for Friday morning. I was thinking just like moving A to B, right? And it could be another play on the sandbags from 2014 and 2011. Um, uh, uh, Yes, the entire time. The whole show it's actually a fake show. We're just gonna make fun of John the whole time. Whoa. There we go. And um so I don't know, just like pure grunt work, right? Like
Can't go wrong
it's
with that.
yeah, I just think
Really ever.
I think it's so important, right? Like this is like almost looking at this as like a monostructural, right? Like it's just an implement of just moving shit from A to B, right? Without like a mixed component in there, right? Like it's going to benefit the bigger athlete. And like looking at where we've been so far, like the smaller athlete has gotten probably a lot of benefit to this point, right? Maybe not in your design, right? So I think it balances out from where you are. Um, but I just like, I love moving shit. Like people should
Yeah.
just be able to move things, right? Like could do like, I think of like strongman sphere in some capacity, right? Like you
Yep.
could yoke here. I might have yoke later, mixed
Would
with something. I like mixing the yoke with some stuff just because it just
Would you want
creates
the
like,
stuff to be heavier or lighter for the grunt
no, this
work? Would
is
it
like
be
super heavy,
oh
like,
super heavy grunt
or
work?
like a
Okay.
really a large amount of volume, right? Like not
Because
like
to
a,
me, there's a
go
big
ahead.
difference between like the strongman's what is it, strongman sphere, or whatever the
Yeah.
event was called, and
Uh-huh.
then the sandbag move that they did a couple times. So like to me,
You
those are
think so?
two. Yeah, I do. I do because there's no limiter on moving those sandbags. They're just not heavy,
Right.
and so it's more about like a little bit of strategy, what your gas tank's like, things like that, because no one cannot move the sandbag. Whereas the
Sure.
strongman events were so heavy that the smaller athletes, no matter if they were feeling fine, they just weren't able to move the weight the same way. So I
Right.
think there's a difference in that sort of testing.
Maybe it's like, maybe there's a combo point. Maybe it starts out with like
Mm.
a really heavy and then it like bleeds into like a lighter component, right? So like it starts with like like a yoke and a sled and or like a pig in a sled in some capacity, and then it's like a like more, who can move as many sandbags with the time remaining, or like
Oh
how many
yeah,
times can you take a 100 pound sandbag like back and forth, or I don't know, something like
that's
that.
cool. Yes,
um
shuttles at the end of like a task or something like
yeah,
AMRAP shuttles.
but
Yeah,
like really heavy, like so maybe it's like 100 pound bag for the girls and like a 150 pound like sack bag on the shoulders for guys. um okay. uh I do like your test. I think it fits really well somewhere. It could be there, and I think we're gonna have to go through all of them and then like kind of like Tetris it together as we're sort of going through. I had something in my head, and I was like, this isn't working as well, but it's fine. We'll audible. All right. Um, so you have your long, heavy grunt work here, right? And then I kind of have like a power sprint work at this point, and uh, could be something like a here. Actually, I'll let you go first. You go first, and then we'll go into mine.
so I'm on the same page as you with all your explanation you just gave, and you've kind of convinced me to switch the order. So I do think that that should be the first one of the day as opposed to the skills first. I actually kind of like that.
Okay.
It's kind of a so
So
yeah.
oh no.
Yeah. You can
So we'll move this one down
make
here.
that official. Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, we had Augustus. So we talked about this as soon as the show started. You were probably on Sousa's show. Shame, shame. But we like to have Thursday as a rest day, just to be able to do maybe a little more on Wednesday. I think if we're going with something like a 7 to 10 mile run, I think without any type of rest going into it, I think we'll just maybe set ourselves up for failure. We like the grueling aspect, and to be able to kind of have a really heavy day one versus maybe a more balanced, like from like day one to day four. Like I would like to kind of see a really heavy start, then maybe it's like more CrossFit, and then I do like to see like a more events at the end of the week, but maybe they're all a little easier and a little shorter, etc.
Yeah, I also wouldn't even mind if it wasn't a rest day, but then you
Sure.
have to really spread Wednesday and Thursday together more thin, I think, to
Right.
give people a chance to do well the
Oh,
rest
and
of the
you would
week.
still take 5 days.
Yeah, I would still. Yep.
Oh, I like
Because
it. Oh, with no
unless
rest day.
yeah, but I would make Wednesday a lot more thin. Maybe it's just the monostructural piece and you make it real brutal, and then
Hmm.
the next two are in there. But I wouldn't try to put the volume that you and I both agree should be on the first day
Right.
on the day before Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think that
Got it.
would be a mistake.
Interesting. Yeah, perfect. It just says, and would that be a 9 hour test? I think 8 hour test
I tell you what, you'd have athletes that just are done. They just tap.
for sure. They don't, they
They'd
just, yeah,
remove themselves from the weekend.
100%.
That would be kind of
Um,
interesting if they ever put a test out there that just made like a couple athletes just like it's just not worth it to me. I won't do
right.
that. That would
Well,
be
I mean, I
interesting.
think if they were going to do one, that wouldn't be the one because while it's hard, it's just a mental
Sitting there.
grind.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like the row. I mean, God, could you imagine getting off the row and then onto a bike erg seat?
Dude, your ass would like
Dude, I
just
yeah.
cramp up like crazy.
Um yeah, that would be the worst. Like you wouldn't feel your balls for a month for
No.
sure. All right. So I think I think we're kind of like on the same page here. Here's my like sort of strict gymnastics, muscular endurance type thing, right? Um, the one thing I think we need to have before a cut, I didn't talk about this, but we'll go. This is kind of the same thing. The one thing that I think we need to have is some form of like muscular endurance test to make sure that we're weeding out or since we're cutting here, getting uh, like a contraction volume, like a strict handstand pushup is basically what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I think we need a
Gotcha.
strict handstand pushup prior to a cut, right? I think that's such an important component and it's going to really balance out if we've had like maybe too much aerobic or too much power. Maybe someone just is like great at, muscle ups or pulling, but like I just think that's where we need to fit something here. And so that would really, I think, maybe combine in these tests right here, right?
I think
And
you
I think
could
those tests sort of combine a little bit.
I think you could look at it that way, or you could look at it as like the what I put in there, the short challenging couplet or girl wad. You could
Hmm.
make that like a 315 strict deficit Diane or something like that, like at night. So then
Oh
you could
yeah.
test the capacity of that and you could still get your like benchmark wad in there at the same
Hmm.
time with like a bit of an upgrade or even like you had said, the Amanda version, like another version of Amanda. Maybe they bring back strict muscle ups with a different standard on how to grade them with whatever. I know we've thrown muscle ups out there a couple times, but just something like that. I think we could accomplish both of our goals with the same thing.
Cool.
Or you could do the other one, like the basic skill thing, where you're looking at reps across a small AMRAP as opposed to holds as much, or maybe a combination of the two.
Um, how unbalanced would the test have to be for Tia? How unbalanced? You mean are you asking the opposite for Laura to beat Tia? Is that what you're asking? Maybe not. Maybe he thinks Laura's gonna win.
No,
Um,
he's smart enough to know Laura's not going to win.
right. Yeah. There
Yeah,
we go.
there
Perfect.
you go.
Um, yeah. CrossFit. I think yes and no. Right. We talked about potentially like a strict gymnastic component. Um, and it, uh, but I think there needs to be a strict pressing component. Um, Two, just to balance it out, right? Like if we're gonna do a skills, I think this could all be intertwined into one, maybe there. But I like so my thought here was maybe something kind of like the down and back they had at semifinals last year. It was like row, overhead squat, some like handstand walk skill, handstand push up, legless rope climb, and then back. So something like that had a really high component to it. So uh, yeah,
I
so
actually like that workout. Yeah.
it was a really good workout, right? I think we could. Um, so okay, so we got to this point and we're making a cut. So I think we should try to get these 6 tests together at least a little bit.
So
Um,
I think one of the things that jumps out at me that we have to. Are you going back to Wednesday or Friday?
it does. I'm just kind of zooming out so we can get. So we have 2 tests on the board,
Okay.
right? Like we're going like and where they are, right? So we have a grunt work opening component on Friday, and we're finishing with the maybe more traditional high volume gymnastics couplet or triplet here, right?
Okay.
So that's where we're at right now. And so I'd like to get maybe like this day finished, at least Wednesday, as we start to move forward.
So I think on Wednesday, or sorry, Friday with the cut at 30 at the end of the night. We have to have an event that's like exciting to watch versus like just testing the gymnastic skills. So I think we have to have some kind of like benchmark or exciting CrossFit workout that people are pumped for. And I think it's the first time we see, in my opinion, CrossFit in the more traditional sense, like couplet, triplet, chipper, whatever, versus most of our tests are more single modality up to this point for the most part.
Okay. So probably finishing with here. So like a challenging couplet, shorter girl wad, maybe something.
It could be gymnastics. Like gymnastics has to be like at
bias.
least 50% of the feature of the workout, I'd say.
All right. So maybe combining these two, is that kind of where your thought process is?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Okay. So let's go to text box, add text box. All right. So, all right. So I can do this. Click. We're just going to delete. There we go.
I applaud you for taking this on the fly, by the way. I could never.
What?
The Canva on the fly. I just
dude, I taught myself
too many clicks.
I just started playing. Now I lost the text box. See, you jinxed me. I just started fucking with Canva like 48 hours ago. And so, all right, so let's see. So is that too similar? So as we're talking here, is that too similar to this, or as far as like each day? You see what I'm saying?
I don't think so, because I think you can make the one on Wednesday a bit higher skill and the one on Friday a bit more capacity based, like you had talked about. Like you could even do, even if it's not a benchmark, you could make a short challenging test with higher rep, like you said. You like the strict handstand push-up movement. You could also have a pulling component in there as well, so you could balance the capacity of both when we go to build these workouts. I'm just saying. So I think you can make them different enough with the stimulus and still have both be. Yeah, I think you'd be fine with that.
Cool. Yeah, maybe this one's like maybe a little longer, right? This is like a medium long time domain too, right? Like more rounds or more volume, kind of like mixed with maybe even like a moderate aerobic component. And this is like barbell gymnastics.
Yeah.
But with like a higher skill, like traditional like barbell gymnastics pairing.
That's what's great about doing this, is like you can have two ideas that are sort of similar, like, oh no, we have gymnastics back-to-back evenings, but you can take that and run in completely different directions with it quite easily. So
I agree. Okay, so I like this. I didn't talk about like this workout. So like like our sprint, like our real sprint style workout, right? So like a bike, maybe like some power snatching or like something like that, sort of like the Echo. It was like the Finnish one, Frikowski one. It was like Echo, not Echo Thruster. That was last year, but it was 2 years ago. I can't think of the name of it.
I can't either. It wasn't bar muscle up, was it?
No, it was power snatches and Echo bike 21:15.9.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that gives
it was light power snatches too. They were light power snatches too.
It was like 115, so it wasn't like super light. I mean, it was light enough. Well, like they challenge. Yeah,
I call that light at the CrossFit Games. Yeah,
right. Yeah. I mean, I was like, you should go unbroken.
Yeah,
but it depends on how hard you push the bike. So that's where I'm thinking something here. So we have a grunt work, something like that. So we're back to gymnastics. I think this capacity test, like this, like a holds test and a strict gymnastics test could really go like on Saturday as well.
Yeah,
but I like this.
That's fine.
I like the strongman here. I think, man, this is tough. It's so tough. Like laying something out in a 30-minute, hour long thing. All right. So we have our ends. We have our start. What do you want to do with the start? Do you want to go with the long run, or do you want to go with the mix?
I think we can agree that it's going to be either just a run or a run and.
Sure.
So we can at least leave it at that. But it will be long.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Like
Call it hour plus.
yeah, hour plus. All right. Oh, that didn't work. Oh well. All right. And then so for the Highlands game, so I love the Highlands game. I love doing different stuff. I feel like it would fit really well on a Saturday when there's so many more, like everyone's there, everyone's watching something that's like really cool to see. Um, but I also don't know if the Highlands game fits like this, like really challenging first day, right? Because then at that point, I feel like it's just the run, right? And everything else is just like this isn't. I mean, it's hard, but it's not that gruelingness that's gonna like finish, and that's why I felt like the swim might fit there. And I know on Saturday you have like some monostructural. Whoops, I don't know what I deleted. Like a shorter mono event, not featured in event one, and I think this concept could fit here, and then maybe this Highland carry toss thing could fit here in this bracket style bit, like the kettlebell toss, like it could be a bracket style
For sure. The
focus.
only
So
the only thing
go
is
ahead.
you don't really want monostructural back to back, or at least I wouldn't. I'd want to see a polar opposite event coming. So you have the light athletes that score their 100 points, 90 points or whatever, that are just cruising, feeling good, and then
Sure.
they get completely crushed, and the bigger athletes get picked up from the second one, and now you kind of see the
Okay.
field starting to play out a bit. So that's my only hesitation for not
Sure.
making it strength or high power bias.
Okay. All
But
right.
I'm definitely open to moving the whole strongman Highland event to really whenever. And I do agree that it would be a heck of a spectator event. Just depends on where you do it. You probably have to do it outside. So depending on if you can
Mhm.
do that or not.
Right.
But I guess you could do it inside. You could set up big crash pads on the other side and throw stuff or whatever else you want to do. I guess you could do
100%.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
it'll be
right.
fine.
Yeah,
Just
you're
pay
right.
dickies.
Yeah, right.
Um, yeah, when you break the floor. Okay. All right, let's keep going. I think
Yeah.
we're sort of, so we got four down and we're still trying to fit a couple. Okay, so Saturday morning you have like a shorter mono event. Swim would do really well here. They've done the swim on Saturday and Sunday a couple times. They like swim paddle with like a shorter field. We already cut to 30. Oh yeah, let's talk about that. So we cut to 30. I think at this point, oh, that's also the other reason. I wanted to make sure we moved a heavy barbell in some capacity prior to cutting, even if it's just a ladder, right? Like or like this kind of like sprint style. I wanted to make sure that we had another strength component, but you have the Highlands game, and so I think it overall it does balance out. I think it's good back and forth.
I also
Um,
think Friday night can be heavy with the gymnastics too. You can make Friday night way outside
yeah,
the comfort zone of normal couplets and
sure, I like
benchmarks.
that. Okay, um, cool. Okay, and so seven, I had this as like our bracket style, like some form of knockout, whether that's like a sprint or a run, maybe it's even a swim. That would be cool, right?
I'd
Like a
watch
hundred
that.
meter, like 100 meter, like bracket style, right? And you rest. I mean, so what's the 100 meter going to take them? I mean, they're sprinting, so a minute. What's the 100 meter record? 49 seconds or something like that. So it's going to take them a minute 20, a minute 30,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Maybe a little bit lower, but I think that would be sick, and then that would kind of balance out
Would you just
the
have the
swim.
swim, or would you have a small like buy-in before that? Because the swim is a great test of fitness. Don't get me wrong, but it is also very skill specific. So anyone with
Sure,
any swimming background just auto has this lead on people. So it's not necessarily the best test of fitness. It's a test of most efficient
right.
swimmer.
So
So
do we?
eh,
I like a mixed. So do we lead into the swim because it's still going to bias the swimmer? But if it's before the swim or if it's after the swim, then people have at least have a chance to get out and maybe catch up to the swimmer. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
100 meters isn't crazy far. Like a great swimmer to a shit swimmer it's still only going to be like maybe 20 seconds or 25 seconds, which is a lot of time. But if they're at least close, maybe it's 10 seconds, which is a lot of time in the pool. But not really a lot of time to accomplish work, right? Maybe it's like 100 meter swim into like,
five heavy like the 200 150 D ball over their
oh,
shoulder
like
when
a
they get
D,
out or
yeah,
something
D ball.
like
And that
that.
would be a play off of that. I was thinking like a thruster, but I like a D ball over the shoulder, like a 200.
Yeah.
And then it's like, touch the pad or whatever it is. I like that. I actually like that. Perfect. I think that fits really nice. And so then that also deletes this. And so it's bracket style, right? And so that also, I think when we think of bracket style, we don't want to um, punish the winners too much by winning the bracket, right? And I don't think that's too much volume, more so than the people that are going to do shitty.
Yeah. I go back and forth in my head on that. I know that's a point a lot of people make is like, you get punished if you're fit because of the way the certain format of the workout is. You have to do more work than everyone else, so it pays to not. But you know what? I until the CrossFit Games is actually a test where scoring is more dialed in, other things are happening. I think it's okay to have people who win have to do more work and volume in certain events. As long as it's laid out ahead of time and you kind of know, it's part of the strategy of accumulating points over a long weekend. If one of the workouts just because again, they give you 100 points for a sprint across the field for 400 meters and they give you 100 points for a 10-mile run, right? And one of them is going to be significantly more damaging the way that certain people approach it than the others. So I really am not super hung up on people having to do more through bracket style or like as many reps as possible at the end. Yeah, anyway.
Sure. I hear you. I just think there's a tipping point, right? So a lot of people are saying that Chad could be this like stopgate, right? Where like you race to each 100 and like 5 go out. Like that would be bad, right? Like if someone only did 100 step ups, but they made it through the cut, but they did terrible in that workout, and then someone did 1,000. I think like there's a point where I don't know. It's like too far.
Of course, yes.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
All right, I like this a lot. I think this is going to be fun and super exciting. Like while I think they missed the mark on the ski swim 2 years ago as far as like the design of it, it was really exciting to watch, but they just like it wasn't long enough. It wasn't hard enough, right? Everyone's just skied, right? And so I think like I think they could have done it and it would have got really good. Like if they would have done 75 meters or something like that, like and then I think that would have been really cool where it actually tested swimming because it didn't test swimming, right? Like Roman didn't get out of the water. Yeah, Roman didn't get out of the water first, but he's ripping 2,800 on the ski every time, so it was irrelevant. Okay, so I like that. And then I think that if we're doing a swim here, that kind of fits your short mono. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
For sure.
And it fits my bracket style.
Cool.
And then I think that leads us to like move our strongman component down here. Cool.
Yeah, Sweet. I think we definitely have to have a weightlifting component on Wednesday, and specifically because we're not doing a max out, so to speak, before the cuts. We have to at least have
Friday?
Between like Wednesday for the Highland, and then Friday you'll go heavy at nighttime, and then you can do your max lifts like later on in the weekend.
Right. Okay. Do we want to try to fit this? Do we want to do our skill gymnastics here, like the holds and the bracing stuff, sort of like a midday? I feel like that's sort of a midday feel, right?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't take away from whatever, it has to be here. I think opposite of what we're going to test Friday night as far as the 50-50 gymnastics barbell thing goes.
Well, if we're going to test,
but we can do that.
Even like a handstand hold, right? Or like an L sit. Like, I mean, unless you're handstanding hold, like unless you're Dave Durante and you have like an 8-minute handstand hold, right? Like, I don't think you're going to have a lot of accumulating fatigue leading into this if this is like a deficit strict or like an increasing deficit strict. Like I think of like push pull here with like an increasing deficit as you go through. Like maybe it's 21-15-9, but it's like 3-inch deficit, 5-inch deficit, like 7-inch deficit or something like that. And then it increases as you go. And then maybe it's a heavier barbell or even a clean. I think Mr. Young was like 275 clean, a lot of volume, but I think it could be something like a super heavy power clean.
Dude, it could actually be like you said push pull. Wasn't that the event of push pull? Wasn't it like deficit handstand push-ups and pulling a sled across the floor?
Pulling a sled, yeah.
You could make a super heavy sled with a pull, and then you could test your deficit handstand push-up like that. So you could have almost a play of push pull from the past, and you would actually probably cover everything.
Yeah, I like that. Push pull's like one of the best events ever for sure.
Bridges certainly made it that way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I think we're coming together. I think we're still maybe. Oh yeah, we're gonna do our skills component here. Um, Sweet. I like it. I think it's coming together really well. All right. Okay, so event 8, I have. I didn't make my little guy blue. There we go. And this is when I started writing like way more. Just kind of make this so where I can. There we go.
You have to read that to me. I can't read it.
Yeah, I'm gonna zoom in. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Is that good?
Perfect.
Are
Oh,
you
perfect.
blind? Are you blind?
No, I'm good, but on my
No, it
I
was
don't
small.
max out the screen over
Yeah,
here, so I have like the
it was
little
small.
screen
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
reading.
yeah. So you have like a new skill variation, which I had one here as well. Mid-length CrossFit machine. Same thing. So I was kind of like, I think I wrote these sort of separate, but I was looking at that the one this is like almost like some version of like the bicouplet 1 and 2, but maybe like scores are combined, but they're a little longer. So it's maybe just a little bit different of a design too. It's like maybe 5 to 6 minutes of work, a couple minutes of rest, and then like total times are or total scores are combined over a period of time. I think a new implement would work really well here. I'd like to see a heavy machine. We haven't really done a ton of machine work at this point. And so I'm thinking like medium total time range, maybe a few rounds of it with like a short rest to really emphasize recovery. Yeah.
I like it. I think I actually like the way you laid that out. Yeah, I don't know what the new implement would be, but I would like to see. I guess this is where they would plug in that star this year, maybe, even though that's kind of like strongman-y, but like
Right.
something creative. I really like when they put something outside the box, like obviously the pig flips were legendary, but even the snail, things like that, where they just have something that's a little different, a different movement pattern than people are used to, but super challenging, and they have to kind of learn on the fly.
What have we
But I like
seen?
that coupled with the machine.
I think what is it like the flying pull-ups? I don't know if we've done too many
Oh,
gymnastics at this point. But here
salmon ladder, salmon ladder.
salmon ladder, that's right. There's a movement that I've seen around and it could just be a new movement or a new implement. I think they always come up with something. Those like those hand kettlebells that were there, something with that. That's kind of like not wildly entertaining.
I don't want to see another. I don't want to see another variation of the double banger. That's for sure.
Oh God, no. I thought as I was writing this, I was thinking, I was like, okay, what's like the double banger, but not that.
Yeah.
And of something of just like accomplishing some work. All right, so I think we're on the same page here. So we'll move this one down.
I'm just not creative enough to come up with the implement. I don't know what it would be.
Yeah, I know. I mean, they also spend fucking 12 months coming up with an implement, right?
I know. You know what I like? Here's something. I don't know how you would do it for the CrossFit Games. It got me thinking about the strongman stuff. You know how they have like the Zercher carry where they put like the long lever in their arms and they walk around like a clock around the edge?
Yep.
Something like a weird carry like that would be cool.
Or you could just do like a yoke searcher.
Yeah, that would be cool. That'd be a different way to use the yoke. That would be great.
Yep. And then pair it with like a machine and like I don't know, like a heavy double under or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. Who did I hear that from? I feel like Chase said that on Get With The Programming, maybe with JR. They were like a Zerger squat, but like with an axle bar. So like you don't just like completely shred your arms, right? Or like a yoke.
That would be awesome.
Obviously it would be extremely light. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then we both had a max lift, ladder, something, some component, some weightlifting, monostructural.
Wow. Look at us go.
Like
matching.
Yeah, word for word. And then we're going to cut to 20. Wheel of Pain. Yeah. Cool. All right. So let's zoom out and see kind of where we're at this point.
On I'm gonna say this too for the max lift. I just thought this was interesting. So did you see Dave Castro's like announcement on the clean ladder, the way he wrote it out, like on the notepad and everything?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I didn't have my volume on, and I thought at first you had to do like 30 light squat cleans and then like tear through the heavy ladder after. Then I thought the second time you had to go through like 20 light squat cleans and then
Mm-hmm.
tear through the ladder. I was like, wow, what a unique way to pre-fatigue someone and then make them rip through vastly different weights after. I was
Right.
like, that's, and then I listened to it and I was like, oh, never mind. That's how many
Wrong.
people are doing it. I was like, that's kind of interesting because we haven't really given a true pre-fatiguing movement or situation before going into a ladder. And maybe they don't ever want to because they just want to see, what
Right.
they're capable of on the max
Mm-hmm.
level. But just thought it was interesting.
Yeah. I took that as the way he wrote it, like the way it laid out was it's a 3-2-1-1 race and the bar never changes, which would make me think that the weights are extremely heavy, right? Like the
Yeah.
way he wrote it out, right, was like, oh, it goes away and the bars are still there, right? 3-2-1-1, 2-1-1-1, 1-1-1. Is that it's the same weights, they don't change as you get further in, it's the same race each time, you just take it away. But then to me, that would mean that the bars are going to be extremely heavy. Like I'm hoping 375, but I don't know. I doubt
Whoa.
yeah. At that last bar. I think it would be cool to like see a ladder where not everyone finishes personally, because 10 or
That's happened
12.
before a few times.
Right. Yeah, yeah, I know. But at 365, it's probably not going to happen now. Right. Or 350.
Uh,
I mean, at 350, it's certainly not going to happen. Um,
yeah.
Everyone's going to finish. It's a full
Yeah.
sprint, but anyways, okay. All right. So this is our completed one I think we're
I don't
cruising
even
along.
think everyone finishes 350, to be honest with you. Not
You
at
don't
that
think
point of the
so?
games. Now, there's some
No, I
athletes
mean, I
in
guess
there.
there's so much fatigue, right? It's after Chad too. There's a lot of shit going on at that point. Okay. Yeah, it'll be interesting. All right, day 5. You had CrossFit wide open. So I had basically like whatever heavy implement we didn't use here in this grunt work, but it seems that we did like kind of like whatever we didn't use here would be paired with maybe something a little lighter. I don't know what this means. Larry, what does this mean? Good shit. Off early 105. Oh, 105 garage is calling. Oh yeah, it's hot as shit. Thanks, man. So kind of like whatever heavy implement we didn't use. So if we move the sled or pigs, or maybe this is a sandbag, and I was thinking like mix with almost kind of like the lunge toe to bar piece from the 2020 games where they like lunged like 100 yards, or like it was like 50 yards and they did some toe to bar work in between, something like that, but maybe like also paired with a triplet of like moving like a pig implement or a sled push, or like a, I don't know, a sandbag carry over a log into maybe some like heavy lunges. I don't know. That's where my head was at. And you had
Yeah.
CrossFit wide open. Again, I
Yeah.
just kind of always lean into, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I
No,
just
go.
lean into like the morning is like less CrossFit, more different, and then I like bleed into it later in the day.
Yeah, I mean that makes perfect sense. I just if you just looked at just mine, I had so
Mhm.
little CrossFit through the rest of the week that like
Sure.
Sunday always feels like CrossFit day to me.
Sure.
Watching the games for years and years, people be all over the place, and then Sunday comes around, and then Froning starts to rip people apart. Wins,
Right.
four CrossFit events on Sundays. I sort of like that because, especially with the cuts, when we get to that point, we've tested so many of these individual domains to make sure that the top 20 there are completely valid and should be there across all the things we want to see tested. And then on Sunday, we combine as many things as we can together. Could be some higher skills, heavier weight. It could be light weights, high capacity. Like, I don't care. We can mix it up based on whatever we decided not to use in the 9 prior events and make them super creative and interesting, as long as they have a real CrossFit feel to them.
Sure.
And
I like
so
that.
that's where my head's at. So it makes it really hard for me to build them out beyond like we can do any CrossFit we want on Sunday
Right. Yeah.
until we
Sure.
like nail everything down.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. And that could even be a play on this, right? Like it could be like distance lunges and toes to bar, like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like with like a
No, you
bike,
have
right?
it.
So like
Totally.
um, it was like it was bike, sled push, like a sandbag carry. And so it could be like machine toes to bar lunges, right? Like just like a hip flexor beat down at this point or something to that effect. Okay. Uh, your CrossFit again. I have like a girl, like more of a short, right? Like more close to like a specific workout. So maybe something similar to this, but not as progressed, right? So like, um, a throwback, like, you know, maybe we finally do like a true heavy Fran with like bar muscle ups, um, something to that effect, or we keep it really short. Or
How do you
like
feel
I
about
really,
one of the two being intervals, like an interval style? Because I think we should also mix up the formats a bit more as
mhm.
well.
So I had the interval style.
Oh,
I think here you had it to finish. Oh, maybe I didn't. I think I moved it. I think I moved it
okay.
to here, right? This interval style, but we could do it again. Um, so you had like a, we'll just kind of like open them all. So I love this workout. I think this is the best workout that's ever been at the CrossFit Games, and I love everyone. I would love to watch it end on this like all the time, and so that's like I just put it there. And so, um, uh, but yeah, we could do something like that. Like, so you mean like an interval, like what, like do Fran like multiple times kind of interval,
I like the
or
like
like
the
a
three three
like a
three four, or
or
like
like a
even
yeah,
small AMRAPs where you're adding up the total like reps you get at the end of like the last movement each time. So maybe, you know, with your triplet you have up there, machine lunge, toes to bar at the end with whatever time you have left, and your score
mhm.
is the total toes to bar over like 3 or 4 rounds, something like
Okay,
that. I like, just to make sure the formats are a bit more exciting for
sure,
Sunday.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, I agree. I like it like the 3-3-2 or whatever it was, or 2-2-3. Yeah, I like that. I love it. So, some form of multiple round AMRAP with like a buy-in into a max effort with
Yeah.
remaining time.
Something
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
And it can be
Uh,
anything. I just like the
right.
format of it.
Sure. Look more CrossFit. Um, all right. So this is like maybe more format focused, right? Format focused, right? Of like buy-in to AMRAP, short rest,
Yeah, that's cool.
total score. Um, okay. Sweet. And so I was on board with this, and my head was kind of like where you were, and I was trying to think about it. So you have a two part with two 100-point scores, right? And so CrossFit always finishes the same way. Maybe not the standard, but in some form of like power, sprint, lunge, distance accumulation, right? Fast. But I felt like if we did a pre-fatigue at that point, that would be way less exciting because everyone would be maybe too tired, right? So that's why I ended up breaking it up. One thing that we didn't really see, or at least we haven't written yet, was just like a like a higher amount of GHD volume.
Hmm.
So I had a new implement here on Sunday, and then I felt like I moved it back. Yeah, I did, and then I think I took that out. It's not supposed to be there. And so that's kind of, I don't think we're too far off, but I just feel like if we had two scored, I mean, it would help with time in general. But then I think that second workout, right, we just have to be really, really creative of how we don't pre-fatigue it too much to where it's like not excessively exciting. You know what I mean? Or
Totally.
like how long the time is between the two workouts.
So an example I would use on how I would do a final would be, it'd be one workout. So you could use like Jackie Pro as an example. So the score is this is not the best version. I would do something different, but 1,000 meter row for time, like after the whole weekend of work, like to see who's putting up 1,000 meter row for time. And then you're going straight into the remainder of Jackie Pro for like one total score. And again, that's really a biased example,
Sure.
but what I'm saying is taking like a multiple part chipper almost for the final, making people push, knowing it's worth, the whole thing's worth 200 points. So there's actually going to be, you know, the crowd's excited because anyone in the top 5 can still make this huge jump. And like,
Mm-hmm.
so it just kind of really elevates the value of pushing in the final. And knowing whatever the first part is, it's worth 100 points. You also have to capitalize on the second. So there's more strategy. Are you emptying the tank on whatever it is? Are you trying to be consistent across both of them? And if you have a workout like Jackie Pro, I mean, this is, again, not the best example, but like 1,000-meter row, you're going to have a huge, super tight group of athletes finishing within seconds or fractions of a second. That'll be worth 5, 10, 20 points separating them. It just makes it so important and so valuable to execute on the final. I just think it makes the wrap up of the games just like over the moon exciting. That's the way I think of it.
Okay. I like it. I definitely like the Jackie Pro feel. That's where my head was at with, like sort of like here, right? Was like some form of like a requirement, right? So like Jackie Pro was this like wild row pace, right? And that could be, but it could be with like a bike maybe, right? Because we never had that before.
Oh yeah.
And so like maybe event 12 is this buy-in into an implement, right? And like the whole thing is a score, but it's still going to create that intensity, right? And so it's like you got to do 60 calories for guys in 2 minutes, and it's like 48 calories for girls or 44 calories for girls in 2 minutes into, I don't know, like 50 thrusts. Like, so it's like maybe just to play, it's like 50 thrusters, right? Something like that where, and then maybe there's like no gymnastics component to it so that we can finish on either the standard or like something like the semifinal finisher this year, which was such a great finisher, right? Definitely like a top 3 all time. And that could be like ski into bar muscle up, which is such a savage pairing, like to be able to press out on the bar muscle up after ski sprinting, it just falls out so quick. And my dog almost knocked over my light.
So you're pretty like in your head, you'd love to see it be 2 separate events for like 12 and 13 versus like one combined event with 2 scores.
Yeah, I don't know. Why don't we ask the I'm always down. I think programming is such a fluid thing, and
there's no wrong answer.
Just look at the games, huh?
No wrong answer.
Yeah, there's no wrong answer, right? It's like what's most exciting. So I don't know. I can't do the polls yet. That would be sick. All 16 people watching. So
I was just thinking, you said bike at the final, like the 60/44 cal. Like if you took that as part of the like my perfect ending, which would be like having a 2-parter, having like 100/ even worse, like 100/80 cal bike be the start of a couplet or a chipper that finishes. I like the bike erg on that, because then you have the idea of, okay, where is the athlete going to put the damper, and how is this like going to affect their getting off and doing their thrusters or their lunges or whatever they're doing after. So it makes it valuable, again, worth that 100 points of where you want to push. And
I like that. The bike arc also has never been used for individuals. Fun fact, right? And so I think that would be a really good finisher. You can see on the screen, right? You can connect the bike arc to the actual screen. So it's kind of like how to do it for the row, right? Yep. So like it could be a distance or calories, like I don't know, how fast can people do 100 calories? Like
under 4
minutes. 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, well under 4. So 2.5.
Right? Yeah,
really?
Maybe. Probably.
Yeah, maybe.
1,800.
Yeah, one time effort through. I guess so.
Yeah, and so maybe it's, like a little bit of take the saddles. Oh yeah, make them stand.
That's a great idea too.
Yeah, I love making them stand.
Idea.
I was gonna say that too. Make them stand. Okay, so maybe it's 2 workouts. So we'll combine this. Maybe it's 2, so it's 100, and then at the 6-minute mark, right? Like that's a score, and at the 6-minute mark, they are completing X amount of work, right? And it could be something like a variant of the standard, right? And so they're like pre-fatigue. Now, are they too pre-fatigued? Does this like create too much fatigue? And then there's, you
just got to make it lighter and simple, right? So that there's no like failure. If you put a failure component in there, like a heavy barbell or like a super high skill gymnastics, then you take away the excitement of just like the marching down the floor, which is what they've done so well, I think, at the games and the finishers with something like Jackie Pro or with the standard or with those, like the weights are very reasonable. So
Right. All right. So
Softball throw.
here we go.
Get off the bike and throw the softball for the final.
Get off the bike and chuck it.
Yeah.
Just embarrass the entire world of CrossFit. Okay. So this is 12 and 13. Yeah. I hope we never do it again, just because it would just like no good would come out of it. I don't think it's a bad test. Yeah, our entertainment, and then everyone else's fucking YouTube fail. Like, I just don't make us look dumber than we already look half the time. Like, just give us a chance. Just show us like clean and jerking double body weight, or like a girl clean and jerking 300 pounds for the first time. Show that. Put that all over YouTube. Don't put us like throwing with the opposite hand, which is what they were going to do initially, which is even more mind blowing. Okay, so it's like 2 scored. 180 cal standing C2 bike for time. Rest till, I don't know. So if we take 3 minutes, yeah, this is probably very true. All right. So rest till like 6-minute mark. And then now it's like a complete,
like a chipper, like a 3
movement
chipper.
I like a chipper. Yeah, something like that. Like some chipper, right? And so that balances like where we're at, right? And it could be some like light barbell cycling, moderate gymnastics, or maybe it's like
another grunt movement to finish, like across the line, like those dumbbell lunges, something like that.
Yep. Light barbell cycling, and then it's like an overhead lunge. You know what I mean? At like, maybe this is like 30 clean and jerks at like maybe it's Grace, right? And then moderate gymnastics could be like a toe to bar to like pre-fatigue the legs. I mean, legs are already pre-fatigued. So this may be like a pull up of some capacity. And then it's like, 80-foot overhead walking lunge, something like that.
Yeah. That the D balls come back around and you got to lunge the D ball. Yeah. Something crazy. Yeah. Lots of great suggestions in the comments.
Yeah. Where are we at? I didn't even see.
Archery from horseback.
I think so. I think that's the best. Yeah. What do you think about shooting in like a competitive sense?
I don't hate it. It's so skill specific. Like, I get the idea of having to bring your heart rate down to be able to aim and shoot, but whenever you're adding like a mechanical feature to something, it sort of pulls away from the fitness. I don't hate it. Yeah. I like to see it in other events. I think that's where
I don't think it's a fitness test, right? Like, I don't think that's not fitness. It's cool, and I think it tests a broad spectrum of ability across like mental capacity and like emotional bandwidth and things like that, to be able to like pull yourself down into that situation. But I don't know if it tests fitness.
I'd rather see a throw that we just kind of poo-pooed, because like a throw,
I for sure would rather see a throw. What I would rather see is like a throw, but like a D-ball throw or something like that. That's like, there isn't a ton of skill, but like there is just like a strength component. You know what I mean? Because like a throw is so unique. Like, if people have never thrown, you just throw like a 6-year-old girl or like just a 5-year-old that's like learning how to play baseball, boy or girl, doesn't matter, until you just figure it out, right? Like, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's my arm slot. And then it just looks normal, right? And then like but like until that point, it just looks horrendous, right? And so,
well, that's why I like the kettlebell or the keg toss on Wednesday, because you have to throw a moderately heavy thing, so you have to be powerful enough to move it. But if you don't have any accuracy, you're not getting it up over that like hurdle behind them. So like you could like even strongmen airball those things all the time because they don't have the right trajectory of the throw, which matters.
Right. I would even be like better with like a hammer throw. You know what I mean? Like, even like you keep it light enough and you make it safe somehow. Like, because then it's just like like lots of what
about like
everywhere.
A javelin, if they just had like one at a time maybe, but like straight ahead?
Augustus, you get that out of here. It's wrong show, buddy. Okay. All right. So we just spent an hour going over our perfect CrossFit games. And so let's kind of recap it. So we each wrote um, 12 to 13 workouts. We had a rest day. We have cuts after event 6 and event 9. We were pretty similar across the board on lots of implements. And so this is kind of where we ended up. So we're going to start with some form of long run, right? Very long run, hour plus, right? Which we've only done once, right? Or maybe twice, trail runs. I think they did it in 2020,
Pendleton.
but and then going into some form of like, this is a new implement, right? A Highlands game type feel, keg over, maybe even here could even be like an Atlas stone too, right? I think that would fit
Sure.
kind of cool here, like a multiple, like um, uh, like a multiple scored event, right? So maybe there's like three tests and your average score get your placing, right? I think that's a component we haven't seen. We've actually never seen that, where it's like, here's a smaller battery of tests, the average of those tests then gives you your score, right? And that will actually give us more than maybe 12 or 13, right? Because like something like the Highland throw, or like an Atlas stone, or I mean anything. Whoops, what just happened? Um, or even like a Husafel carry, right, for distance. Like those things are not going to really beat anyone down, but it'll kind of create an average, give us some more tests, something really fun to watch, right?
Yeah.
Um, cool. Then we're gonna finish in the Coliseum, kind of like a classic dense gymnastics, kipping gymnastics type of volume.
Yep.
Uh, and Cool. And then so we'll start rest on Thursday. We'll start Friday with a grunt work, just doing something, moving A to B under a lot of capacity. Uh, then we have a skills test, like a skills medley. If we're doing a couple of them here, maybe this changes to, maybe it's like two smaller scored events, and then this is like the combined score, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Um, um, so
You could
holds.
have two events with two like smaller scorings too.
You
So
could.
like the
I feel
strongman
like they've
Highland could
had that.
be two
Hmm.
fifties, and then like the skill capacity could be like two fifties as well that you're
Sure.
just like getting. Yeah.
Yep. I like more tests that are maybe less, like more scores are fun, right? More scores are more fun
Yeah.
for the leaderboard
Agreed.
across the board. Here we have like a really dense, high strict gymnastic skill, most likely like a handstand push up, high volume with a deficit, and then probably leaning on something like a push pull, um, which I think will be sick. Bracket style swim into heavy implement, right? So we're thinking something like 100 meter, We'll just start to write notes, because I definitely 100 meter swim into like 5 sandbag cleans. God, that would suck dick. Oh my God. Um,
Be
and
fun to watch.
it would be fun to watch. In case, I know you probably don't watch our show, but we do WOD Prep Wars on between, like, basically like it's John and Travis versus the coaches of WOD Prep.
I've seen a
And yes,
little.
yeah, and yesterday's was some sandbag work, and I just got my clock rocked. Like I just move um, the sandbag poorly. Even though I love it, the 150 just like takes my lunch money aggressively, and so this just
I
gives
can
me
barely move
nightmares.
it to put it away if someone
I
leaves it
know.
out. It's so heavy.
Um, ooh, I don't know. Maybe we will write the workout, write the workouts, and then like maybe do like our top 5 predictions. But probably, I mean, I think it always ends up being the same. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think Tia doesn't win, but maybe the guys, maybe this like adjusts the guys a little bit. But would
Could.
have to really write it out to see. Um, um, yeah. And so CrossFit, I was definitely thinking this is going to be like, probably like if we're running 30 people through it, if we think it'll get too slow, then like all guys and all girls could go in a heat, and then they could go back through it. Right. So that would give them, like 10 to 12 to 15 minutes, maybe even more. So, all right, then we have, multiple rounds with rest. So something like a 3-2-2, heavy, maybe like machine buy-in into moving an implement down the field, or like into a max amount of reps, short rest, and then repeat. Right.
Yep.
Cool. Then we have max lift or ladder. Yeah, I think we were on the same page with that. I like a ladder more than a max lift. I think they just look nicer. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think, it's interesting. What was your favorite max lift test or like event to watch ever?
For lifting only?
Yeah.
Probably when they went one at a time on the platform.
On 19 when it was just 10?
Yeah. Was it 19? No, yeah. I can't remember which year it was, but when the one that Frazier hit that huge lift and won
Yeah,
it.
that was 19.
Yeah. So that was just like the best highlighted, I think, to watch, the hype built. But like obviously that's a lot different as well than watching speed ladders, which are interesting. The problem with speed ladders to watch is that you can't watch everybody. So it's
Sure.
over before you know it. And then it's like, that was exciting, but I don't know what I'm watching.
Yeah. My favorite was the sandbag. I think because it was so
Really?
new, and dude, I loved it. I thought it was so hype. I didn't like the tiebreaker. I feel like they could have done a different, like the tiebreaker could have just, cause like, I don't know. It was obviously, it decided a lot, right? Like it decided the winner and they tied, like, and so, I think the sandbag was the coolest. I was very against it initially. I was like, someone's going to fucking die. Like someone's legit going to get carried off the floor, right? At a 300-pound sandbag. Like they're going to arch, and then you had like Jacqueline like doing a double weight sandbag. That was the craziest thing.
That was great.
That was insane, right? And so I don't know, I thought it was the coolest. It was new, and then I thought it was gonna be lame, but it was really exciting to me.
Interesting.
All right, so then Sunday, back to CrossFit. Kind of options are wide open, and I think we'll kind of work through this another like kind of pure CrossFit event with like a buy-in, or what do we say here? I feel like we might have like combined some of this.
So we had kind of put intervals there, but then we had used intervals the day before. So we can still have a different format. It just has to be differing from Saturday's second event.
That's right. This was more of like the 2-2-3, and then I think we had this as kind of more like a ringer 1, ringer 2, right? Where it was like or like a bicouplet 1 and bicouplet 2, like 6 to 7 minutes with like a short rest into like 6 to 7 minutes again, and then this was like 2-2-3, so really shorter time frames. 2-2-3 feel, and then like ringer 1 and 2 feel. Okay. And then, I think this one's close to being done. I love this like standing C2 bike for time.
I just like the idea of the two scores, the 200 points up for grabs in the final. So if it's tight, especially like if we use this year as an example, the men's field, it could be super tight at the end. Like it could be 4 guys in contention, and whoever lays it out there the best across 2 workouts, like gets to be the champ. I just feel like, though that may not be the most fair in terms of like what you're putting value on across the whole weekend, this is really like an exhibition in the sport. So like let people compete at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is, you saw it at semifinals, right? Like there was so much negativity going into semifinals. The programming was really good, and the races were really good across the board, right? Like when you came into, like, it didn't matter where you were finishing Saturday. And I think that's so cool. And I think we should always have that feel going into the weekend. Like I think Sunday should be 100% up for grabs. So the more events on Sunday, the better.
Or we hope, like maybe Tia doesn't make it up for grabs on Sunday, and that's fine.
Right. I mean, she does her thing, but for like where it matters. And so Augustus, for me, whenever I program standing bike or whatever, I don't think you're pretty unsuccessful if you're not standing on 10, just because of like falling into the pedal. I think it's very challenging. And this is just like me as a coach and how I coach my athletes. If we're standing, we're on 10. I don't think it feels like we can't really get a lot of drive into the pedal if it's any lower, just because of the weight of your body, right? And then you kind of hit like a pause, like no matter how fast you're pushing, just because you're too heavy into the pedal, personally. So I would assume everyone would be on 10.
I would definitely the guys for sure.
Yeah. So cool. All right. Well, let's plan to finish this up. It's an hour 20 in. And we'll plan to finish this up. Yeah, we'll reconvene. And we will finish it, right? And we'll write it all maybe early next week. I think we'll have our normal call on Monday. Maybe we'll meet on Wednesday or something like that. We'll plan it out. And then, we'll talk about if we want to fill it in separately and then bring it together, or just do it on the call.
We should at least lay out some movements or something like that. And
sure.
That'll be fun.
Cool. So. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks guys. Thanks for tuning in. This is the WOD Prep podcast. If you guys are looking for some programming, WOD Prep Programming does offer a 7-day free trial. Seth, not to push programming while you're on the call. Seth offers programming too. Jump ship, right? Pick your poison.
All good.
But yeah, we'd love to have you guys in the group. We offer a really good program, lots of options and lots of tracks for different level of athletes, masters, beginners, competitive level athletes, etc. So hopefully I didn't sound too dumb talking about programming. This is pretty much all I do all day. I sit in this computer and I write training plans, or I talk shit on the internet. So I hope it was as enjoying. John wasn't here, which means we didn't quite have the eye candy that we used to, but Seth is here, which is even better. Right. So Seth, when's Jump Ship going live next?
I'm going to try to do one tomorrow. I think I'm going to do the history of heavy cleans at the CrossFit Games and regional. So getting ready for that clean ladder, probably look at some events in the past.
I love it. Cool, man. Good stuff. I'll be tuning in. Everyone should make sure to tune in. If you don't like and subscribe already, subscribe to WOD Prep. Turn on those notifications this way, right down there, somewhere down there. Turn that bell on. Make sure you know when we're live, so you can hear this voice that is now up to volume, as it was not all day yesterday for our entire hour-and-a-half show. Shit. All right. Thanks, guys, and we will see you on the flip side. Too long.